There's a lot of people who I think just use their social platforms to only ever talk about their company, what they're selling, and they forget that actually building a relationship with people online is about adding value, and then people will actually do the promotion for you.
What's the relationship between Erin Bury, the person, and your personal brand that you've developed through your public speaking engagement, through your thought leadership, through the different boards that you're on where you contribute your opinions, right? You're in the public sphere. And your brand as your company brand, where you're the CEO, how do they interact with each other? And how do you maybe leverage one to promote the other?
It's a great question. And I always get asked by people, what is the intersection of a personal and professional brand? And what happens when that brand changes, right? Because to your point, I've kind of been like a cat with 9 lives with these different careers. I spent time on the founding team at BetaKit and was a tech journalist. I've worked as a marketer at a startup. I've owned an agency. So, I would say the common thread that runs through that is building brands, right? In every role I've ever been in, it's been about building brands and telling stories. And so I think the core of my personal brand is about that. What I apply that to is always changing and always will change. And I wouldn't want it to be prescriptive. So yes, right now I'm very passionate about estate planning. I talk a lot about the challenges with estate planning, and I share fun stories like the dog that was left $5 million in his owner's will. And I try to use kind of interesting pop culture references to help people to actually understand the importance of this stuff. People think estate planning is not sexy or interesting, but when you start saying things like, well, did you know that there was a man in Toronto who held a baby derby in the 1930s where whoever had the most kids in a span of 10 years got his fortune? Like, these are the types of stories from Canadian history that to me are super fascinating. So I think what I've always tried to do with my personal brand is to make sure that it's adding value, right? There's a lot of people who I think just use their social platforms to only ever talk about their company, what they're selling, and they forget that actually building a relationship with people online is about adding value, and then people will actually do the promotion for you. When someone asks about wills, more likely than not, I'm not going to jump in and sell them on Willful. That's way less meaningful than someone in my network chiming in and saying Willful is the go-to. So I try to share a lot of interesting startups and stories and shine a light on other people. And to your point, talk about things like my love for pizza and the Fast and Furious franchise, because those human elements of a personal brand are really what people connect with. And if there's another constant in my personal brand, it's that I'm very open on my social channels. If you know me on social and you meet me, there's not a disconnect. I'm the same person on social as I am in person. And so I really make an effort to be, I hate the word authentic, but real with people online.
No, I think that's so important. And especially we sort of live right now in an age of the Gary V's, right? And that type of, in some cases, social pressure even to be like, hey, if you're in this industry, you kind of have to do these different things. And I think a lot of people find that intimidating. But what are the benefits if you are an entrepreneur and your sole focus is on growing your business? What are some of the specific benefits that you could get if you also focus on developing a personal brand to supplement that?
I think trust and legitimacy are a huge one. If you're scheduling meetings with investors and you get an intro from someone in your network, the first thing that investor is going to do is Google you, look up your LinkedIn. So it doesn't actually matter. You might be using social media only for business, but people are going to vet you for investor meetings, for media interviews, for, customers or sales. And so to me, the first benefit is trust and legitimacy, that they can actually see who you are and understand a bit more about you before saying yes to a meeting. Mm-hmm. Then the other benefit to me is driving brand awareness and top of the funnel traffic. Every time I'm on a show like this, or every time I, share some content about wills and pets that have been, given millions of dollars, it's shared. And people who have never heard of Willful or don't know anything about wills are inevitably going to learn something about that and be exposed to us. So to me, those are kind of the two biggest ones. But then there's also this personal benefit of building a network. I think it's really easy to focus on the the peaks in your career, it's not always as fun to talk about the valleys. I was part of a startup that ran out of money and shut down. I was laid off on a conference call from Post Media. I've experienced these valleys in my career. And at those times, my network was 100% the thing that was the most valuable and helped me get through it. So if you are just heads down on building your business and you're not forming these relationships, networking with potential investors, partners, and customers, building some sort of Google presence so that when someone looks you up, they don't think you're a ghost. You can still do it, absolutely, but it's probably going to be a little bit more difficult.